I left the city, I've been browsing, treading water that they drowning. My head on a swivel, yeah. It's only really my surroundings.
Hello and welcome to episode 90 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty_DadFF. Last week's episode was one of our most popular episodes already, talking about these 2023 rookies. If you guys haven't heard it, I mean, literally, we go over the top 5 players, 6 players in the draft, talk about actionable trades, how to pick up these 23 firsts, because that's what Twitter is all abuzz about. Everybody wants to know, hey, how do I get more of these? How do I get, involved in this? And today's episode is going to be 23 first part due. You remember Hot Shots part due back in the day, John? The rest of our listeners are too young for that. But we're going to talk about how to assess a breakout, and how to find those guys. We talk about insulated trades all the time. Today's show is those guys that you want plus the 23 first. And we're going to talk about how to pick up some of those guys. Talking about, 23 first, talking about studs. I got 2 studs on with me tonight. Mung, how you doing tonight? Talk to me about what's going on with you and, how excited you are about this.
Hey, yeah, it's always good to just have you, me, and John. I love when we have guests, but I love when we get to just kind of talk and bounce ideas off one another, see where we stand on certain players. And we're getting down to it. I don't know if you guys realize, but football season is quietly sneaking up on us, and I'm super excited. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just ready for football season, even though it's still summer, the start of summer.
It's less than 14 weeks. Like I posted I changed my Twitter profile picture to the kids and I at the pool, and I'm like, yo, it's summertime, but 14 weeks till the NFL kickoff, and that's what I'm like super excited about. I don't want the whole summer to fly by without thinking about what's going on. But John, we got so many things going on. Obviously the Patreon's blowing up, and guys keep adding to that, and we're running that special there. Scott Fishbowl, the 23 rookie class. I'm so excited.
I don't know that I've had quite this much fun in an off season. This is what Dynasty brings to the community because it is this year-round thing. We don't have any football going right now, but yet here we are with this Patreon that's just constantly going. Shout out again to those guys. I feel like I'm in that particular feed more than I am on my actual Twitter feed right now. We got,
dude, it's so awesome. And
yeah,
guys,
a lot of fun.
So we're running a special, $12 for the whole year, like literally $1 a month to be in a group chat. And I tell the guys in there, it was like, it's kind of our escape from reality. It's like we all brag to our friends and our girlfriends and our wives, and they're like, I don't care if you got another Jamar Chase share. Like, shut up about it. But this group cares, man. We get excited about it, and everybody's in there, and it's just a lot of fun. So if you guys want to join that, hit us up. And guys, we got our draftkits.co is back again. So if you didn't have an excuse to join the Patreon this year, I talked to the owner. He's going to hook us up with a $115 vinyl reusable draft board for someone in the Patreon. It's just like the board that's behind me. It is like phenomenal stuff. So we're going to be able to give that away. Again, they are the best name out there. Draftkits.co. Check them out. Use code SMASH for 10% off. John, this is just so exciting. I know I talked you into doing a year 1 punt for Smash 5, and I feel like it just has reinvigorated you because we talked about last week. We talked about that top 5. If you want to recap your top 5 again, because these are the guys. After the podcast, everybody's like, John was so excited about this. Is Bijan Robinson really a guy that might go first round startup? Is CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, are these guys that good? Recap your top 5 here again, and then I want to move into 6 through 12 because these top 5 are almost household names at this point, but 6 through 12 are no slouches either. So hit us up with those top 5 again.
Yeah, so my top 5 right now, and I've been doing my homework research. I've been listening to other analysts as well. Number 1, Bijan Robinson. Yes, even in Superflex, I hyped him up. Go check out the pod. We went into a lot of detail there. This is by far my most favorite running back prospect that's come out since Saquon. I mean, I did love JT, Dobbins, some of these guys, but I absolutely love Bijan Robinson. 2 was CJ Stroud, Ohio State Heisman Trophy candidate, probably the lead candidate going into the season. 103, Bryce Young, the guy that just won the Heisman at Alabama in his sophomore year. So those 2 QBs really are in an elite tier there. I probably have a small tier break there, and then it's Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State that actually outperformed, like we said, Olave and Garrett Wilson at Ohio State his sophomore year. He's going to go bananas this year playing with CJ Stroud. And then number 5 for me was Jahmyr Gibbs. He is a transfer at running back to Alabama. He's going to get showcased. He is almost a Alvin Kamara type, probably potentially even a better receiving back than Bijan Robinson. He's not quite as big, but he is absolutely electric. He can kind of do it all. I'm absolutely fine with his size. Those are the top 5. And Mike actually saw this from Mel Kiper. 4 of those 5, including Bijan Robinson, he had going in the top 10 in his early 2023 mock. I was staring at it.
And I think
even
the
Bijan.
Draft capital is what reinforces this, and I think that's huge. And those top 5 are awesome. But there are some other guys in here. I mean, at 6, you and I both agree with this. Keyshawn Boutte. I mean, we're talking about Smith and Jigba is the wide receiver 1 right now, but LSU's Keyshawn Boutte is right behind him. I mean, it is not far off.
It's close. It is close. I do have a small tier break because Boutte has been hurt and he just doesn't have quite the production. But I mean, in 6 games, I think he had like 11 touchdowns, almost averaging 2 touchdowns a game. He has the big playability, he runs great routes. The production.
Look what he did. I mean, the season finale against Ole Miss his freshman year goes off for 308. I mean, this is a guy that at the end of the year, if you said he is the wide receiver 1 in this class, I wouldn't say it wouldn't huge stretch. It is Smith and Jigba right now, but I think we might have a tier of 1A, 1B when it comes down to it. And this wide receiver class, we talked about the wide receiver class we have right now being good. This is a phenomenal wide receiver class. I mean, the next guy you have there, you have it at 108.
It's actually at 7. I have Jordan Addison, and this guy was the Biletnikoff Award winner his sophomore year at Pitt. So again, that's awarded to the top wide receiver in the country. And JSN kind of came on late. Sure, Keyshawn Boutte was hurt for part of the season, but Jordan Addison showed out at Pitt. Some people think that he made Kenny Pickett, frankly. If you watch the film, I mean, I kind of get it. And he is transferring to USC, so he's going to be with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley and a very exciting USC team. So I think that he also gets showcased, and he'll be kind of getting the hype out of that big team there and in a great offense. And again, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually think, based on what I'm seeing right now, he might put up even better stats than we just saw from Drake London. And I'm quite tempted to put Jackson Smith and Jigba, Keyshawn Boutte, and Jordan Addison all above Drake London. It's close between Addison and Drake London. He is a smaller guy. He's going to get a ton of comparisons to like Devonta Smith. He's that kind of, he's almost like a clone of the Slim Reaper, Devonta Smith. But he's just balled out, and he's going to do it again at USC. And so that's who I got at 107.
And at 110, I got to talk about another wide receiver because I love the big guys. Quentin Johnson, 6'4", 194. Another guy, averaged 22 yards per reception his freshman year. Huge, big playability. And I think this is another guy in this class where it's like, there are all of these guys. I put London above Quentin Johnson, but I might put Quentin Johnson above, Wilson and the rest of the guys in this class. But what's really exciting to me, John, and I think Mung will attest to this as well, this year was like, it was Breece Hall, and then I felt like we almost had to stretch for Kenny Walker to go up, as high as he did.
No real consensus
No real problem with that, because now we got Zach Evans coming in at 108 at Ole Miss. 109, you got Sean Tucker, another running back coming into this situation from Syracuse, and talking about
take
absolute
Bixby as well.
Exactly. I mean, we wanted, we talk about the year 1 punt. If you get into a situation, there are going to be plenty of running backs to plug into that situation and get you right there. So wide receivers. And, I love horror films. We got Michael Myers, 6'5", 250 from Notre Dame. I mean, this first round, guys, is just juicy. And next week we're going to talk about second rounders because we want you to get to know these guys. We talk about buying them all the time. without talking too much of that, because we could do this a whole pod.
Oh, yeah.
Tonight's pod, the assessment process is how to get them, right? So now we're going to talk about our running back breakouts. We're going to talk about guys that, we think in 2021 or 2022 will break onto the scene and be guys that you want to have on your dynasty team. That guy, first guy for me, and I made some trade offers today in my Smash leagues. They all told me it was going to take a 23 first mid and late, or a 23 first early and a second. So it's a tough buy at this point. I've been trying to shoot 224s, try to work my way in there. But Travis Etienne's stock is ascending back where we wanted to. Mung and I were talking about it all season long, about trying to pick up guys like Cam Akers and Travis Etienne while they were injured, and now that value has just bounced back up. Mike Clay's projection has him at. And what I want to talk about real quick is, in order to be an RB1, and that's what we want these guys to be, right? A lot of guys fall in that RB2 category. In order to be an RB1, last year they averaged 37.5 receptions, okay? They got the rushing in there, but they averaged that. Take out Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, who are absolute anomalies. I mean, they're just beast running backs with 18 and 19 receptions. It's going to take about 42 receptions, 1,000 yards rushing, 42 receptions, to break into that RB1 status. And that's kind of what it's been over the last couple of years. Travis Etienne, based off of Mike Clay's projection, is projected at 52 receptions. This is a guy that I think has the passing chops, a la, DeAndre Swift, where they have similar type situations, right? Struggling offenses, elite pass catching running backs. Both of them are 23 years old right now. And right now, I think we're going to see a Travis Etienne bump where I am taking my guys. I'm taking the Austin Ecklers of the world, where I'm trying to get Travis Etienne plus. And I want to get that. If I can get Etienne in a first for any of those top guys after, I would do that for Swift. I would do that for Javonte Williams. If I can move back and get that 23 first plus him, I'm willing to do that. Now, I'm pretty excited about Travis Etienne. Either of you guys, I know, he's a polarizing type player. I'm excited about him. It's always tough when a rookie doesn't play his entire rookie season, because we're going off the college tape. But from what I remember, and when I was taking him in rookie drafts, he's an absolute home run threat waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that he will end up being one of the real hot breakout picks. And so I think this comes down to, are you getting that injury discount or are you not? Because people are starting to come around to his whole situation. And, oh, by the way, I don't know that you mentioned the fact that Urban Meyer is out of town. They have a much more stable coaching staff. We think we're going to see a step from Trevor Lawrence. A lot of these Jaguars, I think you could get discounts on just because of how abysmal that offense was. So make no mistake, the situation is considerably better. I will say one caveat. It was Urban Meyer and that previous regime that drafted the guy. But what I'm seeing is that this new staff understands how to use him. You already see him in OTAs lining up out wide, getting mixed into the passing game as, the lead weapon. So if they use him like they should,
And that's something Doug Peterson's done in the past. And that's
no
where
doubt.
Urban Myers was they were trying to turn him into a wide receiver. And the dude, is an absolute. Now, he does try to take things to the outside, so he's not always great in between the tackles. But once he gets that one cut through, he has that speed to be a home run threat. And I think he's one of my breakout guys for this particular season. I think he's one of those guys we go out there and get at the cost right now, if you can get a little bit on top, and that's what we talk about. We want those insulated trades. We want to get those type of players. John, there's another guy coming off an injury here who's your breakout. He was my breakout last year. I feel like, sometimes we get a year discount. Like if a guy was a post-hype sleeper, a guy that was going to be a breakout. But just like Etienne, just like Akers, the value has not dipped much. He's gone back to almost where he was.
Yeah, and I actually went and looked at the ADP for J.K. Dobbins, my breakout candidate here, and looked at where it was when he got injured right before, and it actually is still not yet fully recovered to where it was before the injury. So it tells me that in some leagues you're still going to be able to get him at a bit of a discount, and that's part of why I have him as a breakout candidate. I know that Mong may fight me on this, and we could talk about Gus Bus, but when you look at J.K. Dobbins, he has everything that he needs, in my opinion, to still be an RB1 in this league. I get it. The Lamar Jackson could steal some of the red zone looks. You may want to run a committee with Gus Edwards, who's also still coming off the injury. But J.K. Dobbins will still be the lead back in a run-heavy offense. I think Baltimore is going to be considerably better. The offensive line was banged up. A lot of people forget about that. They're going to be healthy coming into the season. And I really like Baltimore in general and what they're doing. J.K. Dobbins should get worked into the passing game as well in PPR formats. And, I mean, remember, a lot of people had him right up there with JT coming out of college, including Matt Waldman, who is a show favorite, had him actually kind of the 1A and JT the 1B at that point in time. So I'm still coming back to him, 23 years old. He should fully recover. And, you know, he's shown up to OTAs. Granted, he's probably just in the swimming pool and doing his thing, but I think J.K. Dobbins is going to come back and he's going to light it up.
Now, Mung, we're talking about two guys here who you have not necessarily been high on. Talk to me a little bit about the Baltimore situation, you know, with Gus Edwards. And the same with if we get a healthy James Robinson by midseason, how do you see these backfields breaking down? I mean, Mike Clay has J.K. Dobbins at 195 carries, Gus at 136. But the touchdowns he has skewed in the J.K. Dobbins, where Gus Edwards has been a touchdown machine over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and really for me, I still lean ETN. I was a little nervous about both of them just because I'm always a bit more cautious when it comes to players coming back from major injuries, right?
Yeah.
And heading into 2022, so far, no real negative news about Dobbins. Nothing positive just yet either. But, you know, part of the reason I have ETN above him is because we have gotten reports. We've seen ETN already at practice, you know, catching passes, looking quote unquote explosive. So I'm a little bit less concerned about him from an injury perspective. And at the same time too, right, we saw that Robinson tore his Achilles pretty late in the year. So I don't think that he's going to be ready anytime soon. So really ETN could see 70% of the workload potentially. I mean, they have other backs
pretty
there.
Sexy.
Yeah. So I'm coming around on ETN. I just bumped him up in my dynasty rankings, which will get updated at some point over the next few weeks. A little bit more concerned about Dobbins just because, again, I do think that he's going to be the number one guy there, assuming he's healthy, but we just don't see much pass catching usage. Yes, he'll probably have better shots at touchdowns and he will have those big weeks. But a little bit lower weekly floor in PPR. We've seen that the Ravens are consistently among the teams with the lowest targets to running backs year over year. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because Lamar Jackson can just scramble for 15 yards rather than check it down.
Instead of the check down. Yeah.
So,
fair.
You know, that's my only concern with Dobbins. I don't see that elite ceiling, whereas with ETN, particularly in PPR formats, we could see heavy target volume because, let's face it, everyone was talking about how the Jaguars way overpaid Christian Kirk, and they signed Zay Jones to a pretty large deal. And while these guys are going to get targets, you don't really have any elite caliber wide receivers there versus, you know, potentially Bateman stepping up in Baltimore too.
Yeah, and I think ETN could have what I would call maybe an Alvin Kamara light type season. You know, he's not going to get 250 carries. You know, he's going to get 170 carries, 150 carries, and probably 50, 60 receptions because this guy has the pass catching chops, maybe top 5, 6 in the league, and I'm excited about that. Most of the guys, you know, we put this out on Twitter. Who are your breakouts? You know, the number one answer was Etienne Dobbins, and most people are putting DeAndre Swift on there. I feel like he kind of broke out already, but Swift is another absolute beast there. You know, when you're the RB2/3 overall in Dynasty, I feel like you've already kind of made it. So, you know, like, and that's the difficult thing. The equation is like when we talk about running backs, I want guys that have RB1 potential. And the other guy from the rookie class, I think Breece Hall has that. One answer that's come across and is Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce is a guy that Houston backfield is a bit of an enigma.
The opportunity.
You know, I think people are really forgetting about Rex Burkhead, the way he performed towards the end of the year. Everybody wants Marlon Mack in there. Dameon Pierce is that guy in the second round here. Mung, I know you were fairly high on Burkhead. And John, I mean, I don't know if you got any shares of Pierce in your rookie drafts. I did not. get anywhere in that range. But let's talk about Houston a little bit. I mean, is this an opportunity where Dameon Pierce could be a breakout and really be worth what you paid for him in that 202 to 205 range in dynasty rookie drafts?
Yeah, I wasn't quite as high on Dameon Pierce from a talent perspective, and that's partially due to listening to some of the analysts that came on our show.
I agree. Does it feel like a poor man's, CEH here? It's like, we got an opportunity.
It does feel like
kind of pushing it.
He's getting a big boost from that. And I mean, look, they could also draft another running back next year. They could bring another vet in. The Marlon Mack thing is he's got some talent if the guy's healthy again. Burkhead is a guy they'll use. It looks to me like a committee for him to break out. I think it would take definitely some patience, first of all. Like, he's not going to be doing that in the first few weeks of the season. But let's say the Texans are as bad as we think they're going to be, and they want to see what they have in this guy down the stretch next season. I could see him starting to take off, especially as he learns the blocking schemes, pass protection. Maybe he does take off, but he's just not a big bet I would make, especially in that first half of the season.
Yeah, and again, referencing Mike Clegg, because he did just come out with his projections here. You got Marlon Mack potentially, he has at 150 carries, Pierce at 137, Burkhead at 61. Burkhead handling most of the reception work there. I mean, I'm all about. I picked up in 2 leagues this week. He's still on waivers. I picked up Rex Burkhead. Mung, who do you like in this backfield situation? And as long as you don't say Dare Ongumbawale, I'll be fine with it.
I mean, really nobody. If I had to pick one at cost, it's Burkhead because he's free, right? And because I think he might be utilized most in that third down, passing down role. Because let's be honest here, Houston's offensive line was the worst run blocking line in the league last year. They've made some improvements, but at the same time, the offense overall also, based on their win totals, you're not expecting a whole lot of touchdowns. So really, if I have to bet on somebody for 2022, it's Rex Burkhead at cost. And I think that Pierce is in a similar situation to Tyler Algier, right?
Okay,
because
nice. Yeah.
People are seeing that these guys might have immediate opportunities, but I don't think that they're necessarily super exciting prospects by any means. And again, both on bad offenses being inflated a little bit in value, where I probably wouldn't take them until the late second, early third of rookie drafts, but they're going way higher than that. So personally, I don't have any shares of either of those 2 running backs.
Yeah, same with me. I'm in the exact same situation. That I'm just behind the market value on that. I get
that's the area you could be getting David
but
Bell, you could get Mechie, you could get Pierce. There's a lot of wide receivers with some upside there, yeah, for sure. And I mean, Mung, we talked about Rex Burkhead being free. I mean, the guy that you have as your breakout here also is a guy that's very, very affordable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm missing something, why other people aren't nearly as high on him, but we've seen Darrell Williams flash at times in that Kansas City Chiefs offense. He's going to another fast-paced offense that does pass quite a bit. And look, Chase Edmonds was going in rounds 8 through 10 in redraft last year. People were paying late firsts for him. And I don't know if it's just because Darrell Williams has been in the league for a while that the hype isn't there. But we've seen James Conner not hold up to large workloads in the past. So give me that pass-catching role in Arizona. We know Kyler Murray can run also, but he does check down to his running backs a little bit more than the Ravens. And in general, over the last 3 years, the Cardinals just run more plays per game. So I see a lot of opportunity there for Darrell Williams, who I would argue is, a similarly viable standalone PPR flex, like a Tony Pollard type, who will get involved even when James Conner is healthy. And if anything were to happen to Conner where he misses time, then all of a sudden Williams has high-end RB2, maybe even top 10 running back potential while Conner's out.
He definitely showed some flashes in KC there. I think definitely a lot more under the radar where you get him added in on a deal. Like, I feel like we get there. The community's fairly high on, is it Keontae Ingram?
Ingram.
Trying to get him in rookie drafts, Benjamin. But I think that you bring up a good point there where that's a guy, if you have James Conner, get Darrell Williams thrown into a trade. If you have, even if you don't, you want to get a little bit of depth there. I mean, he was on some waiver wires after he left KC, and I think he's a decent add there. I got a trade here that I want to talk about because it's got some of these guys in it, and I think the interesting part is trying to assess these breakouts because you can really hit a home run if you can pick the right guy. And that's something where insulated trades I have absolutely nailed over the years, and we've talked about and tried to teach you guys how to do that. So it's at Boyd DS. He said Rashad Bateman and J.K. Dobbins or Breece Hall and George Pickens. So I'm putting you guys on the spot here. He said full PPR, 12-team league, pretty basic. Breece Hall and George Pickens or Rashad Bateman and J.K. Dobbins. Mung, I'm going to go with you here first there. Are you taking the all Ravens upside, or you think Breece Hall has enough, giddy up there to make up the difference?
Oh, yes. Even though I'm a little bit lower on Dobbins than consensus, I would smash accept the Ravens side here. I'm not quite as sold on Hall's league-winning upside as some are. I think it's going to be a committee in New York, and we still have yet to see how efficient that Jets offense is going to be with Zach Wilson in his sophomore year. I just voiced my concerns about Dobbins, but I still think he's a fine RB2. And on top of that, if you're getting Bateman, who I much prefer over Pickens, I love the Ravens side in this deal.
John, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Which side do you think Twitter has, and how close?
My guess is the hype from Breece Hall.
That's correct.
Is where Twitter is leaning, and he's the best overall dynasty asset in the deal.
Correct.
So let's guess 65%, two-thirds of the people went that way.
It's 51-49, but it blew my mind. I mean, Rashad Bateman and Breece and J.K. Dobbins is an absolute smash accept for me.
It is for me. I don't know if we're getting out the cowbell, but I'm thinking Dobbins and Bateman, especially with Dobbins being my breakout. And I will say this, too. Like, I think George Pickens is actually underrated. And I think that he might be a value in rookie drafts. He's going, in some cases, early second. But, I mean, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Pittsburgh. I mean, you got a lot of guys to throw to there. You still got Muth there. Don't forget about him, and Deontay and Chase Claypool. So, it's going to take a little bit of time for Pickens to develop, and I have Bateman well above him on that side of it.
Let's start unpacking the wide receivers here, because this is where you find them breakouts. A lot of times in running backs, you get some situations, guys that are going to pop in there. Wide receivers are a lot more predictable. Wide receivers over the years, we've predicted DK Metcalf. We've predicted Chris Godwin. We've predicted some absolute smashes for you guys, and we're going to give you some of them tonight. So I think the first thing we got to ask ourselves is what makes a wide receiver one. So guys, I'm like cranking out my workout tonight at home, and I'm like, I'm going to start looking into this. So yeah, I did some research, started using my brain, Mung, not just all heart here. But, looking over the last 8 years, the average height of your wide receiver one is 6'1", 206 pounds. That there's been 96 wide receiver ones over that time. Only 24 of them were under 6 foot tall. So, I mean, this year was a little bit of an anomaly. We had 4 of those guys, but for the most part, we're looking for some size. We're looking for some guys that are really explosive. What type of production are we looking for? So in 2017, the wide receiver ones averaged 16.19. 2018, 1906. 2019, 16.78. 2020, 17.8. And 2021, 17.7. So we're looking for about 17 fantasy points. If we get 17 fantasy points, that usually puts you into that wide receiver one category. Last year, you look at the 2021 guys, the wide receiver ones, they averaged 146 targets. So we're looking for a guy in that 25% target share, a guy that's, definitely going to get some looks. They average 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, there's some anomalies here and there of guys catching, 15 guys catching a few, 1,195 yards and 99 receptions. So, I mean, that is the threshold that we're looking at to try to be a wide receiver one. Those are the guys that we want to assess, those next guys that have that potential. For me, my breakout guy, and a guy that I believe has wide receiver one capability, is Hollywood Brown. All right, Hollywood Brown last year with a healthy Lamar Jackson in weeks 1 through 10 averaged 17.8 points per game. That is a wide receiver one. He averaged 9 targets, 6 receptions, 75 yards in those games. And guys, I mean, now he goes from what's perceived as a run-first offense in Baltimore to Arizona. So now he goes to Arizona, who's projected to throw 80 more passes this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Kyler Murray, his, college,
Yeah.
I don't want to say sweetheart, they're roommates and best friends. DeAndre Hopkins is missing 6 games. They are going to pepper him early. Mike Clay has him projected at 76, over 1,000, and 6 touchdowns, putting him firmly in an area where he is a borderline wide receiver 1, and you can buy him right now. I'm seeing dynasty trades as the 107, 108 range, where you could potentially trade him for, get Chris Olave or Hollywood Brown. And Hollywood Brown has shown it. He has round 1 draft capital. I'm excited for him this year, and I feel like he has that opportunity here where DeAndre Hopkins is up in age. He's going to miss 6 games, and I think he could absolutely boom in the early part of this season. Whether you like him or not, he might slam the first 6 games where you can move him for, one of those coveted 23 firsts.
Let me ask you this, Dad. Would you rather have Marquise Brown, let's say, does start hot in the season as a dynasty asset or a late 23 first?
And this is where it gets into things, John, because
it's like, which way are you going to play it?
I am assessing breakout candidates, and I want the 23 first over all of them almost.
I know, it's amazing.
And that's my play here is, and John, is I am trying to assess and look at Devontae Adams and get Hollywood plus a 23 first. Because you get into a situation where let's say that's you get Hollywood Brown, you get some of these guys, and then that becomes 107 and you get Jordan Addison. Or it becomes even 110 and you get Quentin Johnson. Now all of a sudden you got 2 shots, a 24-year-old Hollywood Brown and a 21-year-old Quentin Johnson. I like my opportunities here in Dynasty for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I like that. That is actually how I was going to play it too. It's just so tempting,
There's not one guy here. I mean, like you could argue if it's the 112, maybe, right? But it's still frustrating to me when I went over that list with you. I mean, those dudes are ballers. Like, the play here is, if you don't believe
guys I haven't even mentioned yet.
If you don't believe in DK Metcalf, if you think Deontay Johnson's going to fall off a little bit, if you think Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs are at that age break, the play is get these guys that we're going to talk about now, plus that 23 first, and give yourself an opportunity where even if it's the 112, you're going to get a nice player. You're going to get a nice piece in there. So I know I've gushed about Hollywood Brown there enough. Mung, I want to go to your guy here because this is someone who, I'm co-managing in Smash 1 with Adam Armour now. He made his debut on the pod last week. We ended up getting our first Drake London share in a trade. Mike Clay has him almost at 1,000 yards as a rookie. I know you're excited about Drake London, so start gushing over Drake London here.
Well, before I get into that, I will just say that I'm 100% with you on Marquise Brown. Going to a very high-paced Arizona offense where he already has established chemistry with Murray. And as you mentioned with Hopkins out, I absolutely love Brown to smash early on and still maintain wide receiver 2 value even once Hopkins is back. But, yeah, I mean, Drake London is he like the most slept on, like early first round rookie wide receiver for I don't know how long? I mean, people love
not on this
Jamar
pod.
Chase last year. Yeah.
I mean, so I had a trade offer. A guy said, "Hey, I'll give you my 23 first for Drake London and your second." I'm like, I know we've hyped up this class, but I mean, Drake London went 8th overall. He's going 102, 103 in rookie drafts, and it's like
he's
that's
the guy
that's not the kind of move I'm making.
I'm with you on this, Mung. I think people are sleeping on him a bit, and he's a guy that I'm not necessarily just trading a random 23 first for.
Yeah, and I think really it's just because everyone's nervous about Marcus Mariota. I think that would be my guess, is just the stigma with Mariota. But this is a Falcons team that's gonna need to have to pass a lot because their defense is absolutely awful. They're going to be playing against Tom Brady, Jameis Winston twice a year, who are going to rack up the score. I mean, Russell Gage averaged 7.9 targets per game last year with Ridley out, and I think London could see close to 150 targets depending on how things shake out. That's his ceiling outcome, but I would think his floor is 100 targets, right? I mean, they literally have no one else. Most people couldn't even name the Falcons wide receivers right now if you ask them to.
Was that a challenge?
I'm a degenerate, so Brian Edwards,
Zacchaeus,
right?
baby.
Olamide Zacchaeus, Right. I mean, these are
Don't
guys.
forget
can't pronounce it
Damier
right, though.
Bird. You know, we got Auden Tate, the ghost of Auden Tate.
Yes.
He's shown some things in there. You know, our Ian Hardis, who we had on the show, is talking about Auden Tate for years. Mike Clay has him at 123 targets. If he does that, we're looking at 77, 968, and 5. I will take the over on almost all of those. And I think he's an absolute smash kind of guy where we're talking about, you know, if you have an opportunity where you can get you could get London in a second for Diggs in that area or Adams. I don't think you're going to get a first here in that situation. And next week we're going to talk about how good these 23 seconds are. But now is definitely the time to buy London because people haven't picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
John,
I would have had him as my breakout, but I knew Mung was gonna beat me to it and steal that one. So
wide receivers, I feel like we kind of all agree here a little bit.
Well, hey, Dad, I want to feature the Smash Patreon here for a quick second.
Let's do it.
While I was hearing you guys break down Hollywood and Drake London, I took the opportunity to hit up our Patreon live during the show here and ask them, because we got some smart guys in there, what some of their breakout wide receivers are, maybe a few stashes or cheap pickups that you guys can get. So shout out to Cowbells for Bell Cows, new Patreon member. I think he just joined in the last week, already contributing here. He says KJ Osborne, revamped offensive scheme, hearing good things already about that. Efficient year one and little to no competition. He also threw out Zay Jones. T-Law throws to wide receivers a lot more than the average QB. Productive in LVR offense at the end of the season, should start wide receiver 2 stats, and he got paid, should outperform the ADP. I kind of like those.
Yeah. I mean, we had they were also answering in the group chat. I mean, Josh Brown said Pittman Jr. Mark Royer, kind of know him. He said Gabriel Davis. Fantasy Nerd Boy went Darnell Mooney.
I had Mooney and A-Rob are mine. Yeah.
V Pizzle's a guy that's after my heart. Like, he literally put every single one. And that leads me to my other guy is Rashad Bateman. So Rashad Bateman, we talked about Marquise Brown, what he was able to do with Lamar Jackson in those 10-game sample size. Rashad Bateman was another guy that just everybody loved going into the draft, but there wasn't that opportunity here. Right now, I bought him today in a 10-team league where, you know, I'm looking to four-peat. I wanted a little bit of depth. I gave up an early 23 second and a late 24 first for him, and I feel good about it. I think Rashad Bateman, but some of the trades I'm seeing, guys, I mean, I love Rashad Bateman. I think Rashad Bateman breaks out as a nice wide receiver 2 for your team and is going to just steadily climb up in value. But on the Twitter atmosphere, he might have already hit that. I mean, let me tell you about some of these trades and I want to get your input. So Do or Die Dynasty posted Kenny Walker or Bateman and a 23 third. Now, a lot of people have Kenny Walker all the way up at 102, 103. Twitter has it 53% in favor of the Bateman side. The other trade sent in by Crazy Chris Eba. This one blew my mind. 12-team, win now. Bateman or the 104 plus Gabriel Davis. 55% Rashad Bateman. And then I was willing to say that he's in that 108, 109 range. Twitter's basically saying, according to both these trades, he's the equivalent of like the 103. And that feels like we're overpaying now.
Yeah, I think that Mung may actually disagree with me on this. I actually would slightly prefer Kenneth Walker because of running back scarcity and young running backs. I personally think he will succeed.
Oh, no, but I mean, the question here is like, we're talking Bateman.
We're overpaying for Bateman,
Bateman
right?
is like 103, right? And I'm like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If you had the choice of any of these big-time wide receivers here, I mean, I debated it on the clock. I finally made a pick, guys. At 107, I took Jameson Williams, but a guy made me an offer of Bateman for that pick, and I was like, Mung will yell at me for the next 3 years when Jameson Williams blows up. But I mean, I debated it. I said I'd do it for 108, but I won't do it for 107.
Yeah, what do you think, Mung?
Yeah, it just comes down to I think Bateman's a good wide receiver. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity with Marquise Brown gone. But this is kind of why I'm a little bit lower than consensus on Mark Andrews as well, right? Everyone saw this high-flying Ravens offense that I don't think we're going to see again in 2022. That was really a combination of the injuries to the offensive line as well as injuries to the defense where the Ravens found themselves in these shootouts where they were passing, 40 times a game, and that's just not the Ravens offense as we know it. We're used to seeing that ground and pound approach where J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards could both see 15 carries a game, right? Where it's a 21-14 type of score at the end of the day. And I think that's what it's going back to once this team is healthy this year. And so I think the ceiling is capped for Bateman. I think he can be a decent wide receiver too for fantasy, but I'm not seeing the kind of elite upside where I would pay a top 3, top 4 rookie pick for.
Yeah, for sure. I do think I'm bullish on Baltimore throwing more. Clay has them projected at almost 500 passing attempts, so I feel like they might go a little bit more in that area. But the truth be told, it's probably somewhere in between. You're a little bit lower, I'm a little bit higher. It's probably somewhere in the middle there. Bateman is a nice buy where if I can get give up Deontay Johnson to move back to Bateman, or some of those kind of moves, I'm excited about that to add that 23 capital. John, hit me up with your guy. I mean, one of your guys was listed in the Smash Accept. Who is your breakout guy here? I know one of them you have it as Allen Robinson, who's a real bounce back kind of category. But who is your breakout? I mean, who's that guy that, like we said, we're trying to get in that insulated trade because he is going to boom this year?
Yeah, for me, it's really Darnell Mooney. And I just think that the community still just can't seem to view this guy as a wide receiver one in an offense. The reality is he is the wide receiver one in Chicago. I know that there's challenges there.
There's no debate.
But look, Nagy's gone, right? The issues that were plaguing Chicago last year were largely that coaching staff. And I mean, they were clueless. And sorry, Mung, I know you're just right down the road there, but it's like even the Chicago Bears fans could all agree. Do they have it all figured out? No. Is Justin Fields going to take another step this year? I absolutely think he will. Darnell Mooney is going to be the guy. They're going to have to throw the ball too. I get that they may have a kind of a slower paced offense. They're going to run the ball, but yes, you got Cole Kmet, you got a couple other interesting weapons, but to me, the guy that's really going to help them move the ball is going to be Darnell Mooney. So certainly he's got the talent. We've already seen it on display. I really like this as a breakout for him.
Yeah.
So,
even 2021, 81 receptions, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. That touchdown number could definitely go up. We did see Justin Fields over the final 4 games kind of bounce back. But again, John, I'm going to pose the question to you. Yeah. Even if it's 112, would you trade 112 for Mooney? 112 next year.
And I still wouldn't. And because frankly,
those 23 firsts in the years past. Mm-hmm. Last year, I would have given up my 22 second to get Keenan Allen. I would have given up my 22 second to get, DeAndre Hopkins. This year, I don't know if people are going to give up that 23 first unless you go up a notch from Mooney, up a notch from Bateman. They would probably do it for London.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. You're going to have to get creative if you want to do that, because don't just sit there with that 23 first thinking, you know what, I'm going to be able to buy whoever I want at that stage. I mean, it's going to be difficult, so it'll be back and forth
his
on
ADP,
that.
Though, Dad, I mean, you could get him for like flex value. I think that some people are coming around.
And he's the prototypical guy on my team where if I have him as my wide receiver 3, I'm happy. I don't necessarily want him. I don't want him on my wide receiver 1 because that's not how I build my teams. But same with Hollywood. If Hollywood's my wide receiver 3 and he's going to have some boom weeks, he's going to have some absolute, I mean, he had 33, 26, some of those guys where you mix them in there. My other breakout guy, and it's kind of cheating because I feel like, everybody's on this, but it's Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. is a lock for a wide receiver 1, in my opinion, this coming year. I mean, he's going to be 24 years old. Matt Ryan is arguably the best quarterback that he's had. He absolutely balled out last year. I think Michael Pittman is on the fast track. I know, Mung, you're on the Pittman train as well. The other guy I wanted to talk about in this situation, and I wanted to kind of, is the whole Denver area. Mike Clay has your boy Cortland Sutton projected at 68, 953, and 8, wide receiver 29. Just how high, Mung, do you have Cortland Sutton this year?
Yeah, he's the top 15 wide receiver for me in redraft and in Dynasty. Wow. I don't know why I don't even know what to say because I feel like
Speechless.
everyone was on board with Cortland Sutton 2 years ago when
Yes.
it was the
But
tail
no,
end.
that's the key. Like if it was last year, you know what I mean? Like 2019, dude balled out, right? Over 1,000 yards. Then 2020, we had the injury. 2021 was off, and now everybody's like, he's done. Which is foolish, right? Because he's shown what he can do. And that's why everybody's off in that situation. You know, it's like he's very polarizing right now. You're either way on or you're way off with it. And I think ultimately he falls somewhere in the middle. But Mung, I mean, I'm all for it. You know, you can get Cortland Sutton for maybe a pair of 23 seconds. I don't think you'd even have to give up
I
a
think
first.
so.
And that's what's awesome about it.
Crazy to me. I mean, last season, right? He was coming off the torn ACL, so maybe the recovery was a little slow at the start of the year. But more importantly, he was playing with Teddy Bridgewater, who's a terribly inefficient deep passer. No and doubt. Now he gets an upgrade to Russell Wilson. I think that the talent is there with Sutton. And we already have reports from Broncos OTAs that Sutton is looking like the favorite target for Wilson early on. I mean, they've got Judy and Patrick and Hamler, obviously. And I don't think that Judy's going to miss a whole lot of time with suspension, if at all. But at the same time, I mean, Judy's been working through an injury, I think, through OTAs so far. Yeah. So the early chemistry is with Sutton. And I want Russell Wilson's new DK Metcalf, and you can get him for way cheaper than Metcalf.
Well, and
Mug's calling y'all crazy out there.
It's the 7 degrees of Drew Lock is what that is, because he really in 2019 Drew Lock unlocked him there. Now he goes over with DK. No, I'm just kidding. You know I got to talk about a little Drew Lock love. John, do you have another one in here? Anybody that you're thinking? You know, I know. You know,
yeah.
There's a lot of guys there. I mean, Mung was also. You know, Russell Gage is low key. A guy that's probably going to have 70 receptions and 700 yards. And with the news about Godwin, I mean. That I love that pick. Is there anybody else here? I mean, Adam said Devonta Smith, where there has not been a guy having the production of his rookie year where he's fallen off in value. A guy that I don't understand, where I bought him yesterday for a 25 first. I was like, I don't even know if I'll be alive in 2025. So, yeah, I'll take that. I'll smash that one. There's got to be somebody else out there, John, that's just...
Yeah, and I think we kind of glossed over it, but A-Rob is a guy I like on contenders that's taken the Bobby Woods role. I think he's going to just get peppered from Stafford. Finally in a good situation.
Yep.
He's the guy that
I think Mooney we forget he's never had a real quarterback.
He's really never. I've never really seen it. So I'm excited about that one. I think a couple others that are coming out of the Patreon right now. Alan Lazard, certainly the opportunity. He's got the trust of Rodgers. That one's kind of interesting for fairly cheap. And we got the Unsung Hero Award coming out of the Patreon to Tyler Boyd. Right?
Okay. I feel like sometimes
we're going deep here.
We're kind of going breakout. They're going, let's get like an unsung hero toss in there. But I mean, you know, John, you brought up Mooney, and I think everyone's like tight end, you know, darling right now is Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is someone that we're thinking that he is. When he put that poll out there, he's almost unanimous as everybody's, you know, go-to guy there. He's someone that I think has some breakout potential. I know Mung being in Chicago and John, I know both you guys like Cole Kmet. Mung, why don't you go first, and then we'll kick it over to John.
Yeah, it's really just it comes down to target volume, right? The Bears defense is still not going to be great. I think Mooney's a fine fantasy wide receiver 3. I don't know that he has an elite ceiling, but either way, I think most people can agree that the top targets for Chicago are probably going to be Kmet and Mooney, right? In a division where you're going against Aaron Rodgers, who's going to throw a ton even without Devontae Adams. Right. And again, with the Vikings, where you're going to have to keep up with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Irv Smith. So I just think the target volume alone is driving the potential for Kmet here, even if the touchdowns may not necessarily be there like last year.
John, I want to talk about a trade that I made, and because I know this is your breakout guy. I traded Cole Kmet and Tyler Higbee in a 1.7 tight end premium for Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth is what we hope Cole Kmet can be. I mean, Cole Kmet, you're looking at like the way Freiermuth, I mean, 54 receptions, 444 yards, 7 touchdowns as a rookie. We're not talking about it enough.
Yeah, he's already put up good production. He just is a better overall prospect, in my opinion. He's got kind of all the things you want to see in a legit tight end profile, and so I do expect him to take another step. Remember, to your point, we don't usually see tight ends show that kind of production early on in their careers. It usually takes a few years to develop. That's one of the reasons why I often do play vets in contender teams. But Muth has already started to show it, and so the QB situation, what's going to happen there? But I really think they're going to look at him a ton in the red zone, and so I expect the production to be there. The targets are going to be there. So if you imagine if Pickett does end up getting the starts in there, we always talk about him needing a security blanket with a big target, especially in the red zone, and that's Freiermuth, no question.
I've been getting him cheap. Another guy I've been getting cheap, and he's my breakout candidate, is Dawson Knox. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, what about touchdown regression? And
regression, yeah.
We're looking at a guy who's getting drafted outside the top 12, who put up 46, 538, and 9. Last year, and I was talking about on the podcast, where he is on the same size and trajectory and draft capital as Mark Andrews. We talked about Mark Andrews before his breakout as just a touchdown dependent type tight end, and I think Dawson Knox is going to make that step forward. Honestly, guys, if you give me someone tied to Josh Allen, they're going to be in the red zone a lot. I keep saying this. Simple. Yeah. Josh Allen is not going to run in the red zone as much as he did last year. I don't think that at all, and I think that number one target in the red zone is Dawson Knox. So I would not be shocked if Dawson Knox has a positive touchdown regression. He goes up to 10, 12 type touchdowns.
Say that for the bold takes episode there, Dad.
Dude, Dawson Knox is my most owned tight end after Mark Andrews. I have Mark Andrews everywhere. I have Zach Ertz everywhere. I have, Waller. I've moved off a little bit. Speaking of Waller, when I was digging into this, I mean, if you had to guess how many touchdowns you thought he had last year. 1. Darren Waller is about to have a giant
Kyle Pitts is same thing, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I saw a tweet today. I think it was, again, Ian Hartitz. I love his comments. But he was like, Kyle Pitts only had a touchdown in London last year. So Atlanta drafted Drake London. So London's always on the field so he can get more touchdowns. I just love that.
It's next level.
Another guy that I love, and I've been getting him thrown in trades. Heck, I even got him in 2 different leagues off a waiver. Brevin Jordan. We talked about him, I believe, out of Miami. And towards the end of the year there for the Texans, he really started to come on a little bit. I mean, not super flashy numbers and limited playing time, but he's a fraction of the cost of all these guys. Someone that I think you can get for a pair of thirds, maybe even in a toss and in a deal. And I really like Brevin Jordan this year.
Yeah, that was my breakout.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder. We're throwing them all out there.
No. Brevin Jordan's a great one. I am being cautioned by the Patreon group here to keep that on the DL. So
I know. You know what stinks about this is I know. So I was trying to make some trades in Smash 3, and I know Josh Brown's gonna look at this and be like, I know you asked me for all these guys. And I honestly, before this pod, went out there and made offers for Pittman, for Bateman, for all of these guys.
That's
and now they're going to listen to it.
Should be doing like, too, right? That's the point. Is like,
that's why we're doing this
now. Do it. Make it offer.
Guys, to be a good analyst, you don't keep the secrets for yourself, And right. I think that's one thing that all 3 of us do is we put those takes out there. We're all good dynasty players, but we give you the information that we would do. And I think that's why we created this podcast, not to be like, you know what, I'm going to really hold on to maybe Brevin Jordan or Irv Smith, or these are guys that I want to make sure I get in my leagues. No, we're going to put it out there for you guys.
Mm-hmm. And that was my other guy, was Swerve and Irv. And again,
Swerve and Irvin.
I like this guy, and he was such a fun prospect coming out, and it just hasn't quite seen the production. He's been sitting behind other tight ends like Kyle Rudolph, et cetera. But again, I think this offense is going to adjust the way that they've been running it, more modern schemes, and I think that they will utilize their talent. So look for Herb to take a step this year as well, and he's super cheap, so I like that one. I could see him finishing in the top 12 this season.
Now, those are the breakout guys. I got one more bounce back here that we wanted Anthony Ferkser to be a thing last year, right? And the Austin Hooper experiment in Cleveland was a bust. But we have to remember last 2 years before he left Atlanta, it was a 70-plus, 700 yards, 5-6 touchdown type of guy. You loved Ferkser last year. Are you in on Hooper at all for 2022?
Yeah, and he's practically free, right? Like you said, it's just, I mean, the Browns way overpaid him. We talked about that when that deal went down, but that doesn't mean that the talent isn't there with Hooper. Now, pass volume's another question because we know that the Titans love just hand it to Derrick Henry, especially in the red zone, but I do think that he's a fine tight end too, and you can get him for a third-round rookie pick right now. So, yeah, I do think that he's a solid option if you just want to go with a cheaper tight end instead of paying 3 firsts for Kyle Pitts.
Now let's bring it full circle here because, I mean, John, you're our guy when it comes to these 23 class.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, where are you at today? You know, because it's like we keep going through this. And, like, talk to me a little bit about the process of getting these 23 firsts. None of us were able to accumulate any this week. But, you know, I think some of these breakout assessments, and I feel like we move backwards, we're going to be able to, you know, potentially accumulate some of these. And once the point season starts, we can start playing around with these.
Well, I'm gonna throw one in there that's very much related to the tight ends that will help, I think, answer this question. Michael Mayer, again, and yes, we already had fun with the Michael Mayer thing, and this guy is going to be nightmares for opposing defenses. Hashtag dad joke there.
There we go. Hey-o!
This guy, and I mean, of course, Kyle Pitts aside, Kyle Pitts is an anomaly. I think that what we'll see is he will be a surefire first-round pick and probably will end up being the best profile we've seen on a tight end for quite a number of years. You look at Hawkinson, Noah Fant, those type of guys. I think that he could surpass that. He balled out. Even his freshman year and sophomore year at Notre Dame as the primary pass catcher. He's already getting all these compared. Everyone loves to compare these prospects to Gronk. But, I mean, again, I had him at 10 in a tight end premium league. You could easily make an argument to draft him 7th, 8th overall. So you think about your tight end situation on your teams, you might be able to get this guy late in a first, and he's a better prospect than TJ Hawkinson or Noah Fant or anybody from the 22 class. Better prospect than Freiermuth. It's crazy to think, but he, from day one, may be like a top 8 dynasty tight end prospect. I believe that he will be. So,
well, by next year, I mean, you got to look at the ages on there where it's like you're going to start moving
I think
guys
it's
down
safely
there, so.
in the top 8. And you start breaking down. This class kind of has everything that you're looking for. And so, again, what we talked about is in your startups, look to trade back and accumulate firsts. And if you snipe somebody, maybe consider flipping that particular player for another asset or a different startup pick and have a package of 23 first in there. We talked about a lot of rookie drafts that are going on right now. Perfect time. Get out of this class, kind of like Dad's been doing, and pick up 23 firsts. Like we talked about, maybe the 101 Brees Hall would crack the top 5. No one else would. Guys like Kenneth Walker and Drake London, these guys are fantastic, but you might start considering them at picks 7, 8, 9 of this class. There might be 4 or more running backs coming out of this class that I would consider ahead of Kenneth Walker right now. And it's not just me. It's a lot of folks out there. But again, be careful not to overpay. It's very important as to where these 23 firsts will be in the draft, right? Those top 5 are absolute, the premium blue chip. If you can get in there, you might even consider slightly overpaying, but definitely size it up. And, your scenario, bring over to us in the DMs, or if you're in the Patreon, let's talk it through. Let's size it up. But again, it's just so exciting. We're going to keep talking about it. And I just so excited for this year. I mean, thanks to you talking me into this punt. I'm really into it now. I'm going to be watching a lot more college football now.
Smash One is now. We talk about know where your first is. Imagine going from Smash One, where I was going to be probably like fringe playoff, to maybe 101 making my deal. And it's like
that's fun.
That's why we talk about being insulated. I'm excited for that punt a little bit. Mm-hmm. One thing to what you were saying, I had multiple messages this week. Hey, Dad, I have the 101. I'm going to trade it for a 2024 first and something else. And if you can move into 2023, sure. 2024 for that 101, and the other question was like 103. Listen, move back from Brees Hall to like 5, 6, get Treylon Burks, then move out. Like just keep moving your way back if you can, accumulate. 2024 firsts are still cheap. It's the play where I think you might even late first. I might start thinking about getting a 2024 first plus something, but I would not be moving off Hall, London, Burks, those kind of guys in that area. Mung, real quick recap on your 23 thoughts to end the pod here, and we'll close it out.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have covered the great prospects that are coming out next season, so I'll just be the voice of reason, like you said, where let's not get too crazy, right? I saw a question of 2 2021 firsts for a 2023 first, and come on, you're not trading 2 mid first this
from
year
last year. We go back in time
from 2022. Sorry,
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, but like you said too, some of these players where obviously you want the 2023 first, but if you're winning titles with a guy like Cortland Sutton or Michael Pittman, I'm not trading these guys for a random 2023 first. They would have to be a locked-in top 3 pick for me to consider, and only then, if you have the depth to weather that move. Because, again, we're in, what is it, June? Yeah, we're in June. I lost track of the months there for a second. So let's not forget that the entire 2022 season has yet to be played, and if you can win a title in 2022, then don't worry too much about 2023 just yet.
Win those titles. It pays for the league the next 5 or 6 years. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Check out, DM any of us for the Patreon. Make sure you check out draftkits.co. Thanks again for tuning in, and enjoy the process.